Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News for this Monday. It is the 29th day of July, 2024, and things are getting very, very heated up in the Middle East, to say the least. Our top story will be Hezbollah getting ready for an all-out war with Israel, and at the same time, the new Iranian president tells Macron of France that any strike that Israel makes on Lebanon will have serious consequences. What that means, we're not sure. Hamas is claiming that Israel is changing the ceasefire agreement, while Netanyahu says that Hamas has actually added 29 changes. Now, remember, this ceasefire agreement was supposed to keep Hezbollah out of any shooting war. They said if a ceasefire agreement was made, they would stop firing on Israel. So it seems that everything is just going south here. And finally, Macron warns Iran's new president to stop supporting Russia in its war with Ukraine. Another instance of Iran and Russia working together, just as the Bible said they would in the last days. All right, let's look at these stories. Headline number one, Hezbollah prepares for all-out war with Israel. The Associated Press claims that the terrorist organization is preparing for a full-scale confrontation with Israel. A source says Hezbollah does not want war, but maintains readiness. The American news agency AP reports that Hezbollah has started moving precision-guided missiles to possible launch sites in preparation for use for an all-out war with Israel. An official from the terrorist organization told the news agency that Hezbollah's stance has not changed, and that the Iran-backed organization does not want a full-scale war with Israel. Here comes the however. However, if war does break out, they will fight without any limitations. And as we mentioned, they have some very sophisticated weapons there that they have not used yet. The senior official, speaking anonymously to discuss sensitive military activities, said Hezbollah began moving some of its smart precision missiles yesterday for use if necessary. Hezbollah possesses an unknown quantity of missiles with satellite-guided systems of various ranges. The terrorist organization's precise missile stockpiles have been targeted by the Israeli Air Force strikes in Lebanon and Syria in recent years. Yet, despite the damage caused, most experts maintain that Hezbollah still holds a significant quantity of such missiles, and these are very, very deadly missiles. Israel and the IDF are preparing a retaliatory strike on Hezbollah after the terrorist organization rocket attack on the Druze town of Majal Shams left 12 local children murdered from a direct hit on a football field. Now, any war with Hezbollah and Israel will be brutal and will have many casualties on both sides. Though it hasn't been predicted in Scripture, it may help set the stage for the prophesied Ezekiel 38-39 invasion, as we said, because once the dust clears, Iran will not be the leader of this coalition or any real coalition in the Middle East. Russia will go to the forefront eventually. This is what the scripture talks about. We deal with this in our Appendix 5 of our book, 25 Signs. We're near the end, as well as in our book, the Ezekiel 38-39 Invasion, for a biblical perspective on the coming conflict, what will happen and what won't. We encourage you to look at that. Again, it's from our website, Educating Our World, and they are free downloads, all the 65 books that we have. All right, headline number two, to add to the problem, the new Iranian president, Pezeshkian, I guess how you pronounce his name, Pezeshkin, Pezeskian, we'll say it that way. He tells Macron that potential Israeli strike on Lebanon will have serious consequences. This story comes from Dubai and the United Arab Emirates. Any possible Israeli attack on Lebanon will have serious consequences for Israel, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said in a phone call with French counterpart Emmanuel Macron. Iran state media reports. Israel has vowed a heavy response against Hezbollah for a rocket attack that hit a soccer ground in the Golan Heights on Saturday, killing 12 children and teenagers. Any possible Israeli attack on Lebanon will have serious consequences for Israel, Pezeshkian is quoted by Iranian state media as saying. We are willing to improve our relations with France on the basis of mutual trust, Pezeshkian adds in his conversation with Macron. If you remember, in this election that just came about, Pezeshkian, who won, said he wants better relationships with the West. And he beat out a couple of hardliners for the position of president, yet he's still totally under the thumb of the Ayatollah there. But he's trying to reach out to the West for some type of better relations, and he's talking with Macron here. Okay, Macron also spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu on Sunday, and the French president said Paris seeks to prevent a broader escalation between Israel and Hezbollah. The presidency said Macron has reminded Netanyahu that France was fully committed to doing everything to avoid a new escalation in the region by passing messages to all parties involved in the conflict. Now, what exactly this warning means by Pezeskian is unclear. Is he committing Iran and its surrogates to fight on the side of Hezbollah? If so, this would be a larger regional conflict that would have global implications, and nobody, I mean, nobody wants to see this happen. Now, the problem is, supposedly, like we said, an agreement for a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel would keep this war from happening, according to Hezbollah. However, as our next two stories indicate, the prospects of this happening seem rather dim. Headline number 3. Hamas accuses Netanyahu of making new demands and delaying the deal. Netanyahu has once again returned to the strategy of procrastination, delay, and evasion from reaching an agreement by setting new conditions and demands, Hamas said. Hamas accused Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of introducing new demands into the three-phased hostage deal that's been on the table since May 31st. Netanyahu's once again returned to this strategy. They go on to say procrastination, delay, and evasion. And so basically with the new conditions and demands, they make it impossible, or Netanyahu is making it impossible for an agreement, Iran says in a statement it posted on its website today, Monday. Now, it spoke up one day after CIA Director William Burns held a high-level round of negotiations in Rome with the Mossad chief, the Qatari prime minister, and Egyptian intelligence chief. Barnier has presented to the negotiators a list of clarifications to the May 31st proposal, which included a number of points that Netanyahu has raised as his red lines. These were the importance of a continued IDF presence at the critical buffer zone at the Gaza-Egypt border, known as the Philadelphia Corridor, and an insistence that Palestinian terrorists must not be able to return to northern Gaza. These are two, again, red lines for Netanyahu. They have to control this Philadelphia corridor, the buffer zone between Gaza and Egypt, so Hamas cannot be resupplied, and they don't want the terrorists returning to northern Gaza. Now, media outlets have also reported that Israel wants to be able to pre-approve the list of hostages that would be freed in the first phase of the deal, which is expected to last for 6 weeks in exchange for the Israeli release from jails of security prisoners and terrorists. During those 42 days, there would be a lull in the war. On day 16, the two sides are expected to begin talks on the possibility of a permanent ceasefire. Again, the likelihood of this happening seems rather remote, and it's going to get worse as we look at story number 4. Prime Minister's office in Israel says Hamas has demanded 29 changes to a ceasefire outline. The office rejects Hamas's accusations that Netanyahu is preventing a ceasefire deal, accusing Hamas of making dozens of new demands. The PMO, Prime Minister's office, released a statement today on Monday evening, rejecting the accusation of the Hamas terrorist organization that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is dragging his feet on reaching a ceasefire. The Hamas leadership is preventing an agreement, the Prime Minister's office stated. Israel neither changed nor added any condition to the outline. Au contraire, on the contrary, as of now, it is Hamas which has demanded 29 changes and has not responded to the original outline. Israel stands on its principles according to the original outline, maximizing the number of living hostages, Israeli control over the Philadelphia corridor, and preventing the passage of terrorist weapons and ammunition to the northern Gaza Strip, the Prime Minister's office said. This, of course, makes it all the less possible for a ceasefire to take place because it seems these two groups are as far as the east is from the west. Now, finally, piggybacking on a story we mentioned in our first broadcast today, headline number 5, France's Macron warns Iran against continuing support to Russian war against Ukraine, the LAC Palace says. French President Emmanuel Macron warned his new Iranian counterpart, Masoud Pezeshkian, in a phone call on Monday against Iran's continuing support for Russia's war in Ukraine, the Elysee Palace said in a statement. Macron also told the Iranian president his nation had a role to play to avoid escalation in the Lebanon-Israel tensions by halting support for destabilizing players. Again, this is another high-profile instance of Iran working closely with Russia, something that until recently would be unheard of, but something, as we said, have been predicted in Scripture so long ago by the prophet prophet Ezekiel that in the last days, the coalition that is led by Russia, by a Russian leader called Gog, that will invade Israel in the last days, specifically, we're told one of its surrogates, one of the members of the coalition, will be Persia, which of course is the ancient name for Iran. So let's sum up what's going on. Well, the tensions are high and the stakes are even higher with respect to Israel's response to Hezbollah for their murderous attacks on these Israeli children. It seems that Israel must come up with a powerful enough response to keep Hamas from doing something similar again. However, here's the problem. It may light the fuse for a war that nobody wants. We have to wait and see what takes place. And it's a very dicey, difficult situation. Now, again, to find out what the Bible specifically says about these events at the time of the end, please see our website, Educating Our World, including our 12 different books on Bible prophecy. They're free downloads, as are all of our 65 books on 11 different biblical subjects. We do this for you so you can know what we believe, why we believe, and how to live the Christian life. And so, to give us an understanding of what's going on at the time of the end, we look seriously at the various issues that the Bible raises, the various predictions that it makes. And we find in our 25 signs we're near the end, as we have mentioned, not only 25 specific predictions about the time of the end, but also 70 specific details within these 25 predictions that have already been fulfilled and 30 more in the process of being fulfilled, showing that God exists, he's in control of all things, and things are going right according to what he told us so long ago would take place before the second coming of Christ. So this should encourage each and every one of us. All right, I'm Don Stewart. Thanks again for watching. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another edition of Breaking News, unless something wild breaks out until then. So for now, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless you.